Make America great, not the land of hate. Again, make America great. Great like jazz. Great like hip-hop. Great like powwows. Great like Chinese railroad workers. Great like no-no boys. And yes, 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 on the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. Make America great, not the land of hate. Again, not the land of tarred Catholic priests and lynched Italian Americans. Make America great, not the land of fake like presidents who deny climate change, fracking brains, nothing sane, politicians who want to mass incarcerate. We can make America great. Great like Basie, Stevens, and Garrison, who told them slavery was a sin. We can make America great. Great like Yuri Kochiyama and Richard Wright, who were willing to fight with all their might for economic justice, reparations, and prisoners' rights. Make America great. Great like Pete Seeger, Bernstein, and Buffy St. Marie, Copeland, Barenbaum, and Edward Said. Make America great, not just of the red, white, and blue, but the brown field workers who speak Spanish, Patois, and Tagalog too. Make America great, not just of the blue, red, and white, but the browns and the yellows who work out of sight. Immigrants, undocumented, displaced by schools, great, like Dolores Huerta and Philip de la Cruz. We must make America great, not the land of hate. Great, like Frederick Douglass, who threw the slave trader to the ground. Great, like Fannie Lou, who wouldn't let nobody turn her around. For all the no-no boys and the yes, yes, yes on the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, let's make America great. Great, like Pam Tao of Chinatown. Great, like Nolan's jazz funerals and smiles that used to be frowns. Make America great. Let's take it back. 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 This America, this beautiful. This America, this beautiful. Democracy. Experiment.
So I think that what we wanted to do is, for this first half of this week's program, is to make sure that we're starting from the heart, and romance is really, it's just about kind of a combination of vision and emotional, passion. It's more than just passion, right? Because a lot of times in our society we just think about the passion, romantic love, and all that. But I think for a lot of us, we think that it's part of us being visionary. It's our imagination. It's our passion. That's all those things together. So just wanted to kind of lay that out there as kind of the context. I'm sorry. I'm, as Amanda calls me, I'm the professor without a classroom. So,
but now you have a classroom.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Now you're teaching Asian American studies.
Yeah, it's great. This semester I had 100 students, and in the middle of this whole anti-Asian hate and the COVID, providing very important context and a space for the Asian American students, all the students, to understand what we're going through right now, and really placing it in that historical context. But also the fact that we resist, we resist, and we insist. That's a thing from Max Roach. So anyway, I think that I'll start by I'm kind of going, during COVID, I've kind of part of my COVID practice, pandemic practice has been to start to write my memoirs. And we're going to start this program with a piece about my mother, Noella Maria L.H. Han Wong. And so I'm going to read a little bit from the number one in my memoir. Now, the book itself is kind of out of print right now, but there'll be a link in the chat of an exhibition that has this piece in it. Okay. Okay. One of my favorite objects that my parents had as I was growing up was their steamer trunks from the trek from Hong Kong to the United States in 1956. I remember being so happy when I got to use one of them to pack my stuff when I moved to Stanford to go to college in the fall of 1975. In any case, one of the main things that fascinated me, in addition to the distinct smell, a combination of mothballs and old clothes that had been in them, was that my mom's name was stenciled on the trunks, Noella Maria L.H. Han. I grew up hearing my mom had a French accent. She spoke English with a French accent. I grew up hearing my mom's French accent and had heard many stories of her time between 1927 and 1939 on the island of Mauritius in a francophone African setting, although by then Mauritius was a British colony. It was and is a quite complicated story, which began with my great-grandfather Chan Alai immigrating there in the 1870s and eventually meeting my great-grandmother, who was of mixed Chinese and Creole ancestry. And that in the process, my great-grandfather changed his name to Allaye, A-L-L-A-Y-E, to blend in with the French setting. And this is the setup for the piece about Year of the Monkey. One summer between my undergraduate years, I was 19 perhaps, I was playing some of my vinyl LPs in my room, probably very loudly. I was listening to some rather revolutionary music by a group called Juju. The album was called A Message from Mozambique. You can still get that record, which included Babatunde Lay, who I got to play with once later in the Bay Area. Some folks might remember that this was the period when Mozambique was referred to as one of the frontline states against apartheid South Africa. So my mom interrupts and says, "Where did you get this music?" This is the music that people played in the public square where I lived. From there, another level of the family story came out as my mom gave me a sense of her being in an African experience as a Chinese family in a Black African setting. So my mom told me lots of stories about the food, breadfruit, and for example, and also that, she had these, the wildlife, so, she used to take rides on a tortoise as a kid. And then also she had a pet monkey named Munyuk. And so, I wrote this piece to kind of conjure up some of that. Now, for me, the memory of that kind of feeling. So let's go with it. Beautiful, beautiful playing. Thank you, Michael and Matt. Yeah, it's like, I just feel so blessed to have met Michael because actually I started out my musical life trying to learn how to play the violin. And even though, I didn't become a great violinist like Michael, but I did learn something about great things that violinists do, and great things that violin music can be. And so I just thought I'd read a paragraph about my violin teacher from my so here it is. So my violin teacher's name was Minnie Ruth Klipfel, and I'll just read this little passage. I have always felt a debt to my teacher's generosity in teaching us and introducing the world of music to me. It was much more than the weekly lesson and the occasional recital. I think, Michael, you know about that, right? And so, in so many ways, Mrs. Klipfel remains to me a paragon of the community organizer that musicians can exemplify. As such, our musical education had a purpose beyond our individual cultural enrichment. So it's more than just learning music and having fun, but contributing to the sound of the world, and contributing that the things that music can do. So that's one of the reasons why I wrote this series of pieces that it's called Asian American Studies 101 for the violin, because there is a gap in our musical education in terms of Asian American stories and music that can be played. Because my main practice has been as an improviser, composer, improviser, but I've just been thinking more about in terms of what can I leave behind. And so these pieces are a little bit of my musical language that's notated so that students can come along. Particularly, I know there's a lot of Asian Americans playing violin to kind of get some access to it, So that I'm very grateful that Michael's been really willing to, share, play that music, because the music has to be played,
Francis, I'm so grateful to you and Minnie Ruth that you have been able to put these into written out, like have them all notated, because there's so many different aspects of how students can benefit from them and how performers can benefit. The voice is so different depending on who's going to be learning what and how to sort through them. They're really great works. So thank you. I'm so glad that you have that violin influence in your life.
Yeah. So this is kind of a way for me to kind of full circle, and
right.
delve into that.
I want to mention that there will be a Q&A afterwards, so everyone feel free to put in the Q&A portion of the Zoom. If you have any questions, we'll address them after the program.
So yeah. And if you have anything to put in the chat, put it in the chat too. Any appreciations can go in the chat. And so don't hold.
Okay. I think we can move on to,
okay.
Yeah.
Great. So the next two pieces are going to be done to, in segue. So I'm just going to read a little bit. They're kind of more related to my father's story, so. Yeah. So, my mother passed away, more than 20 years ago, but my dad's still with me. And this is us the other day, with our kind of contemporary style here. And so my dad turned 100 this year, so it's quite a milestone. So, okay, even though I have a Catholic upbringing, I've had some defining experiences with Chinese memorial culture over the years, some through my dad and some through my connection to community. Some of these experiences came to mind for me when watching the recent film The Farewell, in which a quite memorable scene takes place in a cemetery. This film had a significant impact with Chinese American audiences, many of whom take my classes in Asian American Studies at San Francisco State. According to my dad, his grandfather actually ran a stand next to the temple where he sold joss paper and incense. It's kind of parts of the ritual that people have in the cemetery, however, or in the temple. However, this was only part of a story about how the family came to have a place in Wuxi, which he thinks of as his hometown. It's just a little ways past Shanghai. Apparently, the money his grandfather made from this business allowed him to buy a piece of land where they grew rice and made a kind of rice whiskey. A notable fact from my dad's recollection was that theirs was one of 18 houses in this area, all doing the same enterprise. and that every one of these families had Wong as their surname. So there was 18 Wong families, you know. My dad and I would return to this theme in our dialogues over the years, including during our trip to China in 2001. It was the first time my dad visited the country since leaving as a refugee on the eve of the fall of the KMT government in 1949. Part of the purpose of the trip was to find where his parents were laid to rest. After arriving in Shanghai, we reconnected with his nephew, who agreed to take us to the site in Suzhou. So I think you're gonna see the grave in the thing. But so these next two pieces are really about that trip in 2001, and him revisiting the places of his youth, and there's two parts to it, which is there's the older black and white photos from my father's collection, and then there's some contemporary photos that goes with the clarinet piece. Really thankful for both Michael and for Rick for playing this music, and of course Matt. Wow, that was incredible. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
It's a thing, there's a process of writing music, which is very meditative, but then there's also when you find out when people play the music, then there's a whole nother kind of meditation that goes on, and so I'm just very very appreciative, and that hopefully this others who will play this music can be in their own spaces around it. Yeah. So thank you. I think in that, I think in this kind of a segue, we're segueing to Ondoku-san, right?
Yes, I wanted to add something
Sure.
about at least and I'd be very curious. Don't want to open up too much conversation now, but I'd be really curious what Rick felt, obviously within that piece, because it's something really so much from your history, your heritage, Francis,
Mm-hmm.
and Rick, you did such a fantastic. Well, from my opinion, it was incredibly moving, and how you kind of translated it.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. It means a lot. Um, I uh I got the piece. You sent me the piece when you asked me to be on the concert and everything. And I looked at it and I saw that it was titled Reflections, but also Tianjin Portraits. Did I say that right?
Sure.
Is that okay? So I looked up the city that it was written about and everything, and wanted to make sure that I was capturing some bit of the city's history in um, what I was doing. And I actually talked to Francis. We met up and had a Zoom call a couple days before I recorded. And I was like, oh, I just want to make sure I'm like, I made in some markings because there wasn't too much in the score to go off of, like in terms of that stuff. And I was like, I want to know what it's about. Like, did I get it right? And our ideas seemed to line up when he told me the story about his father coming back and visiting and all that stuff, kind of lined up with the history of the city that I read about. And there are these different parts of the piece that I tried to separate with each caesura that happened, each of a piece of the history of both the city and the story of Francis's father. Um, and I figured recording outside would be nice to give that a little bit more in nature with that.
It's so beautiful how music can just open up new doors. Like you can learn that, like just from having that piece of music in front of you, you learn something totally beyond just that music.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a really great experience having it and sitting with it for a little bit.
With High River, that was not the only incarnation of that work. Obviously, I want to mention about what we did with the East West Ensemble at Franklin and Marshall College. Francis rewrote High River for what was it? Two Arhu, uh, Gujang, violin, piano, and I'm missing one, Hulase,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And yeah, and it was really a magical experience, I think, for everyone. To have the gujang player to have it tuned differently for her, and to have the arhu experiencing it, and having it's the East meets West ensemble that I coach, and it just gives so many different opportunities what music can do. What's your music, especially Francis, because it's so open-ended. Thank you for being open-ended.
Yeah, I'm not. Well, that's the interesting thing. I mean, me in terms of my main practice is as an improviser, and then composing works for improvisation.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the idea of things being unfinished,
Mm-hmm.
because and so then it's not about other people filling in my vision, that's just kind of modernist, triumph or something like that, but just really kind of like creating things that create an opening, for everyone to come together and to, and for us to unfinish together,
Yes. Beautiful.
So
Beautifully said.
That was beautiful. So thank you.
Thanks.
So we're going to move on. And in some ways it is connected to Tianjin because it's a center for Buddhism in China. You know, actually I did, John Jang turned me on to a book about Buddhist music in that city. And so particularly in Reflections, there's some motives that are related to some chants. But anyway, so this next one is a exploration of or a rendition of the Jodo Shinshu Buddhism here in America. And I've arranged a piece that's kind of one of the anthem, kind of like an anthem, or they call them gathas, which is kind of the hymns in the Japanese American, it's in the Jodo Shinshu Church here in, actually worldwide, because this guy, this is a rendering of the founder of Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, Shinran Shonin, who is, he was born, actually his birthday's coming up, I think it's on the 21st, I think, something like that, and he was born in 1173, and he actually represented kind of a revolution in Buddhism itself, in terms of moving from a mainly monastic tradition to one that includes regular folks, you know. And so this piece the lyrics are his words, and so it's very revered within this community as 800-year tradition, you know. And here there's my whole being I dedicate to spread Amita's compassion. And I just think that right now we really, I think that's a message we need to really hear. And I want to appreciate that. And also I want to appreciate my wife, Julie Yumi Hata, and because she's a third generation person in this spiritual tradition. Her grandfather was a minister who was arrested right after Pearl Harbor and put in a Department of Justice camp. And then her father was also a minister, and Yumi and I are our family, are members of the San Francisco Temple. And so there's a picture statue of that you just saw of Shinran, and I just want to read a little bit about from this Reverend Bridge. So that first artist rendering was by a Reverend Watanabe, really great artist, So, but one of the songs that we sing most often, this is Reverend Harry Bridges' thing, is most often at temple, is called Onroku-san. It is in Japanese, so I would be willing to bet that many people don't know what the lyrics mean. Did you know that it was written by Shinran Shonin himself? Here's a translation found in the collected works of Shinran. Such is the benevolence of Amita's great compassion that we must strive to return it. So this notion of gratitude to, the compassion that's been given to all of us, that's come down to us, right? And that we must strive to return it, even to the breaking of our bodies. That's kind of intense, but it shows a certain level of commitment, and also the kind of commitment that it takes to have gone through a lot of the struggles, particularly if what we just mentioned in terms of the World War II imprisonment of Japanese Americans. Such is the benevolence of the masters and true teachers. Well, I like that theme of teachers. Michael, you're a teacher. Amanda, you're a teacher. Rick, you're a teacher. Matt, you're a teacher. That we must endeavor to repay it, even to our bones becoming dust. So, just, it's a kind of a commitment, many lifetimes commitment to compassion, Also, I just want to add one thing, that today is Yumi's birthday. And so, I thought it'd be great for, to hear this piece. So you saw some images, you heard me talking, and think of I really think of Michael's performance of this as a meditation. So thank you. Wow, thank you very much.
Happy birthday, Yumi. So now I think we're going to be transitioning into another period, right, and another style.
Yeah.
And we're gonna hear from Dr. Amanda Kemp. So
Coming, my internet is a little whacked out, so please answer the question while I get to you.
answer the question. Okay, we will.
There is one question in the chat here from, I apologize if I pronounced this name wrong. There's Heidi Kupke says, what's the percussion instrument that sounds like the surf? Very cool.
Oh, Matt was really excited to bring that over he said it's something that he got. And it was a little round thing with a lot of like ball bearings inside of it. And he said it's something that they used to lull babies to sleep.
Mm.
And he got it, and it's by, have you seen that percussion instrument before, Francis?
Actually, sometimes they call it an ocean drum.
Ocean drum.
Because Avacha, the poet and musician that John and I play with here in San Francisco, she uses that in some of her work.
And it actually, in addition to that, I think we had a lot of the wind noise from the microphone chiming in, so it kind of really felt like we were along the riverbanks.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's really nice that, somehow I think in some ways it's like we're coming out, going outdoors, and all
Exactly.
that.
Well, it's part of what Zoom has done. We
Yeah.
started these recordings outdoors. Now many of us can actually do them indoors.
Yeah.
But it's fun, But I didn't realize how loud my neighborhood can be.
Yeah. It's like that potential of being outdoors and making our sound part of the sound of the world. Yeah.
Right.
And speaking of potential, that's how I first met Francis. He was part of a jazz ensemble called Potential, and it was all Stanford alumni. And
Did you plan that segue?
oh my God! Oh no! Oh, did I plan it? I thought you were gonna say, did I play in the band? I was like, I wish.
No.
But as a matter of fact, I just want to give a shout out to all the Racial Justice from the Heart folks who are here.
Yeah.
Thanks for showing up today. And so, am I introducing Migração?
Migração.
Okay, great. So one of the things that I said when I invited folks from my community to come today is that one of the things that's always struck me about you, Francis. Well, first of all, I met you when I was 19, and when I met you, I had never met an Asian American composer before. And the piece that just broke me open was Prayer for Melvin Truss. Mm-hmm. And it was a time in my life when I really started to see that people who weren't Black could really care about Black people. And this whole narrow definition of self-interest.
Right.
That, I didn't have to buy into it. You don't buy into it. And that piece, and, we'll talk more about your revolutionary activities, I guess, in part 2. But that piece, it was so beautiful. It just spoke to me on a very deep level. And I think it calls us to kind of compassion for each other. So that being said, I know we're going to play that at the very... Is that going to happen?
We will play that at the end.
At the very end.
Right now we're going to hear...
Right, I know we're going to hear Negro, so I just don't want you to... don't miss the outro.
Yeah, right.
Because that...
Around!
Yes, hang in there.
Hang in there. That is...
It's very powerful.
Very profound. This piece that we're going to hear now is called Nigrasum. And basically I wrote this poem because I was tired of so much chronicling so much pain, with beginning with the killing of Trayvon Martin, and then on to the killing of Mike Brown and Sandra Bland, and I just kind of felt overcome. And as I was coming out of that on a retreat where Michael and I were together, I just said, I refuse to write another poem about that. I just refuse. So Nigrasum is I am Black. And it kind of goes back to my high school years. I'm probably going on way too long. So should I just say without further ado?
No. Keep going. This is juicy stuff.
Okay.
This is juicy stuff.
Okay. Some of you know Nigrasum by Pablo Casals.
Yes.
Right. Was he a cellist?
Yes.
Yes. In the Western concert music tradition. And I was in a glee club that was in the Western concert music tradition when I was in high school. And we sang this song, and there were other Black girls in the glee club, but there weren't that many of us. And one of the lines is Nigrasum, I am Black, but I am comely. And I never forgot that but. Like, why is it a but? Why can't I be Black and comely? And so this piece, Nigrasum, is kind of taking that. And that Song of Solomon, which of course Toni Morrison, one of her most famous novels, called the Song of Solomon, and Nigrasum, I am Black, comes again from the Song of Solomon. So those are some of the references, and so Michael and I started to collaborate on it, and of course then the great Francis Wong came in and whomped on it. And, gave it the groove.
Yes.
And so, without further ado, Nigra Sum.
I'll be listening.
We'll be listening.
Yeah.
Nigra Sum. Black matter. Mater. Nigra Sum. Nigra Sum. Black and lovely. Black and lovely. Solomon wanted this. Hannibal wanted this. Nigra Sum. When we ride through the desert wondering what shall we say, Nigra Sum. Mildred Loving wrote to Bobby K. Nigra Sum. Ain't I a woman? Ain't I American? No. No. Citizenship is birth. American is a state of mind. Us mind. Not them mind. White mind. I don't want to write another poem called #Stop Killing Us. #Black Girl Crazy. Nigra Sum. Black and lovely. Nigra Sum. I care. I can be here now. Nigra Sum. The sum of it all in these veins, in this DNA, in this glance, in this poem, song, dance, smile, Nigra Sum. I am black and lovely, so lovely. Nigra Sum. I am. Black. Thank you, Francis.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, thank
It
you.
was
Francis.
amazing. Great slide too.
Yeah.
That would be Mark.
Yes, thank you, Mark. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I think
Going to the
this
Q&A.
has been a juicy session. Woo! And we have next week too,
Yeah.
a revolution. And but let's go into the Q&A and before we do our outro of Melvin Truss. Prayer for
So-
Melvin Truss.
Before you get to the Q&A, you have tons of praise here in the chat. There's, I apologize if I say anybody's name, but anyone's name incorrect. But Yumi said, beautiful and cinematic, magic and sound. Lynn Kerman says, beautiful. Jan Tukmaru says, so deeply moving music and imagery. You've got more praise from Joanne, from Ellie. We've got Eric saying, this is really beautiful. Judith says the music of the story is breathtaking. Got lots of people saying thank you to all of you. Lots of birthday wishes for Yumi. We have Jamie saying just breathtaking. And then Yumi said thank you for all the birthday wishes. Lots of Lots of praise here for all of the pieces and all of our panelists. Amazing percussion instrument, says Jan. Heidi says, yes, it's like a rain stick, but smoother.
Yeah.
Excellent performances, riveting narrative, says William Roper.
Oh yeah.
Mr. Roper.
Roper.
Jan says, integrated with nature and violin.
Mm.
It's a nice comment. Absolutely moving interpretation of Ando Kusan. Thank you so much, says Yumi.
Oh.
Loving it. Thank you for sharing with us, says Jamie Ray.
Oh, Jamie Ray's wow, that's great.
We also have lots of prayer for Melvin Truss, which you praise for that, which you will hear that piece as our outro today. Another comment about the Negro Sum, the Pablo Casals version.
Yeah.
Heidi Cupkey says that her women's choir sang a rendition of that one. Danita Green says, beautiful sound and energy. Music is energy. So healing.
Yeah.
Thank you for sending energy to those working for racial hearing and social justice all over the country. Storytelleronamission.com.
Oh, awesome.
Yes.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
Music truly connects us. The nature, the energy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the violin and the nature. I always think of the nature with my violin, with the birds. I feel like I'm much more connected with the earth when I'm playing than when I'm just being.
Can I ask a question for
Yeah.
Francis?
Yes.
Francis, I wanted to know, maybe nobody else cares, but I just wanted to know, what's the difference for you when you write for saxophone or when you're writing for a jazz ensemble versus the pieces that you sent to Michael?
Yeah, that's
like,
a great question.
what's different for you as a composer, or,
Well, I mean, I follow the idea that the music's going to be played by somebody,
Yeah.
and that what's written is a vehicle for that person or those people, the people who are doing that. So it's very personal to the musicians that I'm working with.
Oh.
And so the violin pieces, like I mentioned before, is that there's a lot of young people like myself, Chinese Americans or Asian Americans, who study the violin and didn't necessarily get to play music by an Asian American.
Yes.
Just like you mentioned about Negra Sum, it's like, oh, why does it have to be that way? So maybe there's some insight. And so, I've worked on like I mentioned before, this idea of like, it's kind of like reading material for people who are, they can actually read something. Because everybody's always asking me, well, you have a reading list or a book or whatever like that? So these pieces are like a book or something for young musicians to read, and they can play through it, they can experience it, and then there's stories that are associated with that, so they can kind of get an idea of how I get to that place, in terms of writing these pieces. So that's how I look at it. Yeah. And a lot of times I'm working cross-culturally too. So like when you guys came out to San Francisco to play at Fort Point, so we had someone playing the Chinese hammered dulcimer, and I had to write things in a way so that she would feel comfortable playing and improvising in the ensemble, as well as then incorporating Wesley Wellington, who sings the Okinawan songs. So part of it is recognize not this idealized idea of the ensemble, but the orchestra's people from different traditions and trying to find themselves in the music. Yeah.
Yeah, finding themselves in the music.
Music,
Finding
yeah.
themselves, and that's what it is. Finding yourself in the music, through the music.
Well, Thelonious Monk, he said, "Be yourself."
Right. That was genius.
Yeah. So it's like, okay. In some ways, that's kind of was the inspiration for some of us Asian American musicians to, we're not copying, we're being ourselves, and so it's kind of like that's where the work begins in some ways. Yeah.
get a little bit more praise here in the
You know,
chat.
I actually want to. I see some of the chat, Mark. So I want to. It seems like Maurice Eldridge, he mentioned something about the Negro Assume piece, and I have a little interesting story because all those pictures are. I submitted a whole bunch of pictures to maybe make a slideshow to Negro Assume, but we decided to take out a lot of them and just have that one picture that actually was created as one faded out and one came in. So it's a combination of the two pictures of the band in the back, and then Amanda at the 125th Street subway station, and the hand. I noticed that too because it's just a fluke how we paused the frame, and then we decided, oh, let's take a still of that, and that'll just go through the whole thing, and that's actually my hand from the San Francisco step picture going through. And so you said, yeah, it said in Negro Assume there was a hand to be a white hand, my hand. Because I was curious about that myself, coming out of the headband of the head of the black woman who happened to be Amanda on screen. Yeah.
That's
Asking
so
about the
interesting.
significance of the hand in the 125th Street picture.
Well, I just want to say something about 125th Street,
Yeah.
just in case people don't all know. So that's iconic in terms of that's Harlem. So I love that photo that Michael took. You took that photo
I
of me,
did.
right? Yeah.
I took a lot of photos.
He took a lot of photos. I get very tired of him. And that band that you saw merged in there. I don't know if Mark, our fantastic Zoom driver, could even bring the picture back, but that band, the reason why it's significant is because Francis invited us to perform for the Day of Remembrance Film Festival. And we take the Day of Remembrance, talking about the Day of Remembrance for the interning of people of Japanese descent in the United States. And
Here it is.
so, yeah, so the band that's in there is includes is Wesley in there?
Yeah.
Is that Wesley
Yeah,
up in the right corner?
Yeah.
So you see the whole I don't want to just say diversity, but I mean different heritages in that photo.
Yeah.
And the instruments that were played that day. That's also part of Francis's I don't know, would you call it style? There's like, you have a mark, Francis. You have a way of doing things.
Yeah,
And-
methodology. Yeah, sure.
Yes, and Asian improv arts, I remember you saying once that Asian improv arts wasn't only about being a vehicle for Asian and Asian American artists. It was like, can you just say something about that? Like how you think about it racially, the work that you're doing as Asian improv arts?
Yeah, well, I mean, we come from the whole era of third world solidarity, and that the creation of the Asian American identity was not solely about our heritage, but our relationship to the struggle. Because the term Asian American was named for the movement, so that when Asian Americans participated in the third world strikes, that we would have a marker. So because we're not gonna because we're not just we weren't just Chinese, we're Filipino, we were Japanese American, and so we weren't gonna go in there and say Orientals for third world studies. We needed to say, hey, so that's actually, there was a meeting saying that from here on we're going to call ourselves Asian Americans, so we can participate in third world solidarity with a name that we came up with.
Wow.
So Asian improv is kind of is that heritage. So it's never been just about Asian Americans making music, but really kind of like these different traditions, and and how much we owe to Black Arts Movement, how much we owe to the Chicano movement, American Indian movement. These are our traditions. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I know it made a big difference for me
to see somebody embodying that, artists embodying that together. And and it's definitely not common. It's just not common what you do, what Asian Improv Arts does, what John Jang does. It's just not common. So I really, I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you because you were part of it back in the day and today. So we're still together.
Yes, we're still together.
Always an anthem right at the side.
That's
any
right.
moment. Any moment.
Together again.
Yeah.
Okay, I know William Roper is out there. I don't know if he has a question. Speaking of artists who've collaborated with you, but okay, I'm sorry. Back to where we at, Dr. Jamanis?
Well, I think our time is pretty much up for today's show, because I know I scheduled it from 5 to 6, and I don't want to keep everyone waiting. Right. And I know we do have a very special going out moment. So and we will have next week too.
Yes,
we will have next week. Yeah. So I appreciate all the comments in the chat. And yes, I do want to, I know Christine mentioned how she will carry it with her, the emotion from the Negro Sum. And so I think that's really incredible, just to take this with you. Okay. Take what you have today and take it with you. And Francis, if you just want, and we'll just ride it on out. We'll leave the window open as we'll end the show, but we'll keep it open as the prayer for Melvin Truss continues, and so you can take anything in the chat or any of the links that Mark will post them again. So feel free to hang on. I encourage you to. So, but Francis, if you just want to give us a little.
Oh, about Melvin Truss, or
yeah, if you would, a little context, if you want, or else.
Well, Melvin Truss was a black teenager in San Jose, where I was living at the time, in 1985, and he was killed by a San Jose police officer who actually had a history, and so when Melvin was killed, they tried to, of course, say, hey, he deserved it, like everything they're doing today. And so the family's, Melvin's mother and her brother, and then the black community, some reverends and some activists kind of came together to form a committee. And then the rest of us who were involved in the Jesse Jackson Rainbow Coalition, came to the support of the committee, and part of my contribution was to write this piece, for a fundraiser. And like Amanda mentioned, I was part of a group called Potential, which used to hang out at the Black House at Stanford. And I was kind of one of the few Asian Americans who hung out at the Black House, and so it was quite beautiful to be able to play that music and to be active and be on the front line. I mean, we're on the front lines of that struggle, and actually Yumi was played an important role in the Rainbow at the time. So
wonderful.
Here it comes.
Oh, and just one more. So then this is a recent recording by John Jang of the piece, and which was really about taking our place in the movement for Black lives. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. We'll see you all next week. Thank you, Francis.
Same bat channel.
This is first.
Over the years, we've had to play this piece many times, and so I think it's this music. It's just part of a tradition of resistance and a tradition of calling out, to cry for justice.
Bye.